Mercedes-Benz has been the home of the SEC Championship game since 2017, but the city of Atlanta has been its home since 1994. The Georgia Bulldogs and LSU Tigers are getting set to square off in the 2019 SEC Championship game to see who will be crowned the best in the land and punch their ticket to the college playoffs. This is your 2019 SEC Championship Special.
WALB News 10 presents The Road to the Championship with John Barron and Paige Dower.
South Georgia, welcome into yet another SEC Championship Special by your sports team at WALB. Now, we all know if you see us right here in front of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, then that means your Georgia Bulldogs have made it to the championship game.
The Dogs have ruled the East, and now they're getting ready to play in their third consecutive SEC Championship game. And for Georgia, they're only the third team in SEC history to do such.
Now, the Georgia Bulldogs are looking for a different outcome from the last time they were here in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but as many Dog fans will tell you, this is a brand new day. Now, as we get things rolling today, let's see how both squads made it here this season. Let's start things off with LSU. For the Tigers, they've had a tough schedule all year, but the first 5 games were kind of weak games, except for Texas at the time. They never really saw a struggle, but then they ran into Florida. The Tigers and Gators traded shots all game, but in the end, the Tigers offense prevailed and the Tigers walked away with the win. Then 2 games later, they ran into yet another problem. The Tigers had a showdown with Auburn that came down to the wire. LSU was lucky enough to escape the 23-20 victory that night, but the big one came on September 9th. The Tigers took down the Crimson Tide, and after that, LSU had traded places with Ohio State for the #1 spot. Now, the Tigers haven't had an undefeated season since 2011, and a big key for the Dogs is going to have to be their defense, because the Tigers are holding an average of 48 points per game.
I mean, I probably did until about yesterday afternoon. I started watching the tape, and then you realize that there really aren't weaknesses. I mean, arguably one of the best backs in the country. I mean, just vicious, attack you, spin you, hit you. In the biggest games, Clyde Edwards has been one of the biggest players. Joe Burrow speaks for herself. I mean, I could go on and on. Wideouts, tight end. They got 5 really returning starters on their offensive line. They got defensive players. I mean, they got an outstanding all-around team. It's a tremendous opportunity to measure where you are as a team when you get an opportunity to play a team like this that is firing on all cylinders.
Of course, there aren't a lot of Tiger fans in the state of Georgia, and definitely not in South Georgia. But you know what there's a lot of? Dog fans. We saw the big wins for LSU. Now let's take a look at the big wins for Georgia. It didn't take long for the Dogs to host a big-time game. They hosted the Fighting Irish, and the Dogs delivered with the big win. But things turned in their game against South Carolina. The Dogs found their first loss of the season, and many people didn't know how they would respond. But the Dogs kept on fighting. Down in Jacksonville, Georgia knocked off Florida, then Auburn, and made their way back to the top 4. And as you said, LSU has a strong offense that scores a lot of points. And they're going to be put to the test as well, as this Georgia defense is only averaging 10 points per game.
I don't know that the adage defense wins championships stands as much as it used to. When you saw scores from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and you saw scores of games, it was indicative of defense compared to now. Now it's like I got to play pretty good defense and I got to score a lot of points. I can't play horrific defense. I can't play bad defense, but I might not have to be perfect is the way a lot of teams have had success. And they probably take more chances and risk, and they just score tons of points. I'm not talking about LSU. I'm just talking about college football, because I think LSU plays really good defense, and they are explosive on offense. But, you know, an explosive offense allows you to play a certain way on defense too, because you know that you're going to score a certain amount of points.
Georgia knows that this game is going to be the make or break game for them to reach the college football playoffs, but it won't be easy, especially the last time they had LSU travel up here to Atlanta. 2011, the Tigers entered into the Georgia Dome with an undefeated record and a national title hope. And unfortunately, the Dogs were no match. They fell 42-10, but Atlanta really hasn't been kind to Georgia in the SEC championship games. They've made the journey out here 7 times since 1992, and their record is 3-4. Of course, the Dogs are looking for a completely different result here tonight.
Well, you spoke about their history together, so let's take a look at it. The Dogs and Tigers actually have a healthy matchup with each other when it comes to the wins and losses. A total of 31 meetings between the two, but the Tigers hold just 17 of them. And the last time these two met, the Tigers took it away from Georgia with a 36-16 victory.
Yeah, these two have history against each other, and it's not exactly a friendly meeting between the two because these meetings sometimes mean the difference between a championship. 3 of those last 8 meetings have been right here in Atlanta for the SEC championship. But as we keep saying, it's a new year. The Dogs have a bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they showed it this season. After falling to Alabama last year and missing the playoffs, Georgia isn't going to let that happen again.
Our players have earned this opportunity. We didn't back our way into this game. We earned our way into this game. And we're looking forward to the opportunity to play in what is probably one of the greatest stages, I've said it over and over, in all of college football.
Although it's only been 2 years since the Dogs raced the SEC championship trophy, a lot of them believe it's just been too long.
Well, you would too if you were picked as the favorite to win every game this season. And there hasn't been a lot of games within the last 3 years where they haven't been picked as the favorite.
Very true, and for the Dogs, this is the first time this season that they're picked as the underdogs. LSU has been awarded as 4-point favorites in this year's meeting, and the Dogs aren't taking too kindly to it.
I don't get into who's favored by how many or underdogs. It's just not important because the people that make those decisions aren't in this room. They're not like in our meeting rooms. They're not in our meetings. They don't go through our practices. So we try to, control what we can control with how we practice and how we get ready.
And although the Dogs are the underdogs, that might not be such a bad thing. Georgia has really thrived under pressure, and this year it seems like they might wear that burden with pride. Well, of course, our work here is never done, but of course, when we come back, we'll have a lot more here from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Plus, we'll hear a little bit more from those Georgia Bulldogs to get ready to take the field here in Atlanta for the SEC championship.
And when we come back, we'll take a look at some of those former South Georgia players who are getting ready to take the field for the SEC championship game.
We'll be right back. Welcome back into the 2019 SEC Championship Special, Georgia versus LSU. It's all anybody's been talking about for the last week and, well, maybe longer.
Well, they're just setting the tone for how big this SEC meeting truly is. And if you've heard more about it this season, it's because UGA and LSU have South Georgia ties.
Well, as everyone knows, our very own Kirby Smart is homegrown right here in South Georgia. The Bainbridge man has been doing his thing with the Dogs, but he's not alone. Just up the street from WALB, Otis Reese, the sophomore defensive back, came out of Lee County. Then for this next pair, we travel out to Cairo. Kobe Pierce, the junior offensive lineman, and right along with him came his former teammate, the junior outside linebacker, Walter Grant. And last but certainly not least, came the senior defensive lineman from America Sumter, Tyler Clark. In his time with the Dogs, he's been in a total of 117 tackles and has had 6.5 sacks. He's been the leader of the defensive line, and he's probably going to be looked to heavily in this SEC championship. Now, LSU doesn't really move a lot outside of the state of Louisiana, but nevertheless, the Tigers have a couple South Georgia players that are sure to make a big splash in the future. First, it's the Colquitt County boy, Jay Ward. Only a freshman, but he's expected to help out a lot with that defense in a couple years. Then, once again, Lee County sees another Trojan making their way to the SEC championship as the junior fullback, Torrey Carter, will be stepping into Mercedes-Benz with a chance to raise the trophy at the end. And although the chances of Carter seeing this special are very slim, his mom made it very clear how proud she was to see her son shining on the big stage.
As LSU's head coach Ed Orgeron puts it, Death Valley is where their opponent's dreams come to die. But for the Carter family, it's where their dreams came true.
I'm just really proud from what all he's gone through to be where he's at right now.
Robin Carter Alligood's son, Torrey, is a junior fullback at LSU. And maybe his best play came last season against Texas A&M in the 5th overtime.
Torrey made that touchdown, and it was like, oh my gosh, he's doing it, he's doing it.
Torrey, a former Lee County Trojan, has been making the big plays for years.
The thing that stands out most in the memory, though, what everybody still talks about is just the physicality that he played with. There's not many kids that play with the physicality and hit people like he hits them.
Which is the exact thing Lee County's head coach Dean Fabrizio says caught Coach O's eye.
His best voice, he was, that boy's a player right there. We got to have him at LSU. And, they certainly wanted him there, and he's had a great career for him so far.
LSU on track to repeat their 2011 season. The same year, Robin's father passed away. It's a moment that hits close to home, as the Tigers get set to take the field against Georgia in their SEC title game.
My son is the one that's playing on the team, and so it was just like, wow. It's just kind of it's all kinds of emotions, and so I'm really excited, and Dad's got the best seat in the house. He's just cheering him on.
Mom is obviously very proud.
Yes, and of course she made a very bold prediction for this year's 2019 SEC Championship. She obviously went with the Tigers taking it all, but that brings us to our next point. What will happen if either team wins the title?
Well, you have to look at the odds. The committee has made it very clear that Ohio State is the favorite at the #1 spot in the college football playoffs. But if LSU pulls out the win, will they take the #1 spot? Well, something we know for sure, Georgia needs this win. If they don't, the Dogs are more than certainly out of the college football playoffs for the second year in a row.
Yeah, we saw what happened the last time Georgia lost the SEC title, and they lost their spot in the college playoffs. And that's something the Dogs won't let happen again.
Well, both coaches clearly want the win, but if Georgia loses, will they be out?
Yeah, you have to look at a lot of aspects. You know, Georgia right now, they have a loss already, and no two-loss team has ever made it into the college playoffs. And unfortunately, since Georgia sits at that #4 spot, granted LSU is standing at #2, possibly #1, but if they lose that, then they will definitely probably be out of the college football playoff race. And that's something, unfortunately, Georgia will miss out for the second year in a row. But Kirby Smart has made it very clear in every aspect that this is something they deserve to be in. They've shown in the competition, they've shown in the years before, and this year they have thrived off of pressure. And I'm sure they'll come into Mercedes-Benz with a chip on their shoulder, but they do know that there is a lot of chances that Georgia will be out of this race, that if they don't win this game, it is go home.
Yeah, John, those were all good points, and no two-loss team has ever made it into the college football playoffs. And with Utah just sitting outside the bubble, I don't think Georgia can afford to lose another game.
But one thing's for certain, Georgia has the #1 defense, and Kirby Smart intends to use that. But then again, Joe Burrows is ready to get in the end zone as many times as possible.
I got to play pretty good defense. I got to score a lot of points. I can't play horrific defense. I can't play bad defense, but I might not have to be perfect is the way a lot of teams have had success. And they probably take more chances and risk, and they just score tons of points. That's not – I'm not talking about LSU. I'm just talking about college football, because I think LSU plays really good defense, and they are explosive on offense. But, you know, an explosive offense allows you to play a certain way on defense too, because you know that you're going to score a certain amount of points.
I think we get disappointed if we don't score, so I think – going into this game, we're going to keep our same mentality. We're going to attack. We're going to go fast. We're going to throw the ball down the field, but also understanding that this is one of the best defenses in the country.
Well, one thing's for certain, Georgia definitely does not want to lose. They don't even want to think about that aspect. So right now, they're trying to solidify their chance into that college football race and trying to get themselves back into the college football playoffs. So a win here could be a possibility. We don't know, of course, until later on tonight. But when we come back from the break, we'll hear more from the players and what they think will happen tonight and what it'll take to claim the SEC title. Welcome inside the College Football Hall of Fame. It's one of the many attractions here in Atlanta that I'm sure fans will be stopping by to see all the history that 150 years of college football has to offer.
History is something that lives forever, and when Georgia or LSU claims the title, they'll etch their names right here.
With 150 years of college football under one roof, there's a lot to see here at the Chick-fil-A College Football Hall of Fame. Every moment of greatness, every milestone ever created in the college football era, it is right here in Atlanta, and I'm sure it's going to be the #2 visited area right next to Mercedes-Benz, as I'm sure many fans and patrons will be making their way here to see all the history that football has contained over the years. But to get a little bit more of the feel for the area, we made sure we stuck around and got a chance to meet the CEO of the Chick-fil-A College Football Hall of Fame. Here with Dennis Adamovich, the CEO here at the Chick-fil-A College Football Hall of Fame. Dennis, we appreciate you having some time for us.
Yeah.
Obviously a busy man, especially now. Now let's talk a little bit about this. You guys obviously getting ready for some big news. Obviously the SEC Championship, have it every year. Just kind of tell us how much that means here at the College Football Hall of Fame.
Well, it really kind of kicks off what's getting ready to happen in our city, not only in our city but within college football. SEC Championship is one of the biggest rivalries out there. Great teams coming to our city. We're the epicenter of college football. This place represents everything about college football. So you're in 95,000 square feet of football awesomeness here. The most interactive facility in the country, and we're going to have it right here in the city for all the fans to enjoy.
150 years of just college football history right here under one roof. How do you contain all of that and just show it all off?
Well, you know, we have over 1 million pieces of memorabilia, 1 million pieces that we bring out on the floor on a constant basis. So we have 10 to 15% of our memorabilia on the floor. So what you're going to see this weekend, and has already started to come out, is all the Georgia LSU stuff. We're about stories. We're storytellers at our core, so we want to bring those stories forward. You're going to see all those stories in the hall highlighted first and foremost for this weekend. But we rotate it out on a regular basis. What you're seeing behind us is video. We have over 65,000 pieces of content for 750 teams. So if you're a fan of any school, any division, you're going to have something here that highlights and customizes it to you. And it's all based on this pass.
You want to talk about history. You've got every single championship trophy there ever has been, but one that's got a very young tradition is right here, the National Championship Trophy for
How about
the playoffs.
this? It sits right here in the Hall of Fame. You have from the Heisman, all the bowl trophies, all the way to the National Championship Trophy. And this is what it's really all about, right? So
this is as close as anybody
that
that
SEC
doesn't
championship leads you into what this trophy is all about. And not too many people get to see it. See it up live, and you get to see it right here in front of you. So we have a lot of fans taking pictures in and all around it, in and around the Heisman. We have the ESPN Award Show that happens here next week, which is a big show where you have everybody in college football that is being awarded, including the top 4 Heisman candidates that are in the house looking at that Heisman, saying which one of us is going to be. So we're a pretty special place with a lot of rich history. We truly are the epicenter of all things college football, and we love having big games like LSU and Georgia for SEC championship happening.
Absolutely, and we love being here. Thank you so much
Thanks for
your
coming
time.
visiting us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Welcome back into the Chick-fil-A College Football Hall of Fame.
Still got it.
Yeah, but not as good as Georgia's lights-out kicker.
Yeah, you're right. Rodrigo Blankenship has been doing his thing all year long, and more than likely, they'll need him to help out against LSU. Now, I personally remember Blankenship back in high school. I kicked against him when he was at Sprayberry, and the kid had a cannon of a leg back then.
Well, now he's being recognized for it. Blankenship is now in the running as a finalist for the Lou Groza Award. That means it's between him and just 2 other kickers.
Yeah, lights out is probably the right thing to say. He's gone 77 for 92 in his time with the Dogs. That's 83% in his time with UGA. And he currently now holds the all-time scoring record at Georgia. Obviously, Blankenship is somebody to watch for on Sundays.
And I'm sure Kirby wants him only thinking about Saturday before thinking of the future. And for Kirby, I'm sure he's only thinking about Saturday. He's not thinking too far into the future or even worried about what will happen with a win or loss for the playoffs. He's just worried about this game.
Well, a couple other players feel the same way, but someone who always looks for a way to relax is Jake Fromm. Every year he talks about this hunting trip he takes as a way to calm down and get his mind clear. And of course, he's thinking about making that trip once again. But for many of these guys, there's no time to rest. They've got to stay focused, especially with some key players possibly being out in the SEC championship. For one, Lawrence Cager. Their big-time wide receiver is out after an ankle injury in the practice before Georgia Tech. That's a big hit to their offense. But another possible player who is hopefully going to be okay and ready to go is DeAndre Swift. Swift hurt his shoulder in the Georgia Tech game and didn't return. Kirby Smart said in the presser that he hopes he will be good to go. But another hit to their receiver core is George Pickens. After the fight at Georgia Tech, Pickens was suspended for the first half of the SEC championship, so Georgia's going to have to find a way to get in the end zone if all this offensive firepower doesn't show up tonight.
No, it's very similar to last week. I mean, as far as, hey, guys, you're going to get an opportunity to play. Step up and make plays. We had some guys do that. We had some guys catch balls that haven't caught balls in a long time or very little all year. And they made some good plays. And you're going to get one-on-one opportunities when you play in our offense because of the run game. So you got to win your 50-50 opportunities. You got to take advantage of it. And it'll be very similar to last week in regards to not who we're playing, but the guys on the field.
Now both coaches are very used to playing in away games and very loud games, but both of them spoke about what it'll be like as far as a new atmosphere when it comes to Mercedes-Benz.
Because you're going to face adversity on the road, and the crowd's going to be in it, and it's going to be hard to hear the snap count. We have to go to the silent count, whatever that may be, and we're going to have to stick together as a team. And I think that our team has shown they can do that. And it helped that we went on the road and made some big plays at some critical times.
Yeah, I think it helps. I mean, our guys love any environment. I mean, a lot of players will probably tell you they like a hostile environment more than they like a home environment because they like to go in and get in front of the other team's fans and play well and be motivated by that. I certainly like the fact that you can go on the road in certain locales and take over a stadium.
Well, the stage is set and our job here is done.
Yeah, Georgia and LSU are as ready as they'll ever be to take the field and prove once and for all that they're the rightful owners of the SEC title. We'll be inside and get all your highlights and interviews after the game. But until then, we'll see you next time as this completes our 2019 SEC Championship Special.